What's up, CineNerds? I'm JP Cross,
And I'm Ryan Newhouse.
and today we decided to do a film that neither myself or Ryan have ever seen until this review, which is The Ugly Stepsister. And if you missed our what episode was that? Was it the Scream? It was the Scream episode where I told the story about what happened when we were originally supposed to record this episode, wasn't it?
Yeah, I believe that's where you explained that.
Yeah, so like we had decided to do the ugly stepsister. We were already supposed to have this recorded just to kind of give a little bit of the story again. So the next day we were getting ready to start recording and Ryan texts me says, I bought the evil stepmom. I'm going to watch it in a little while. And I thought he was joking. I'm like, yeah, that's not the movie we're watching. And turns out he was not joking. He did buy the film, The Evil Stepmom. And so we had to delay recording this because he bought the wrong movie, even though I had actually told him The Ugly Stepsister was available on Hulu, Shutter, and I had it in my Fandango for him to watch. So here we
It
are
doesn't
now.
matter that you said that because when you said, listen, it's an adjective and a noun. It's honestly like I almost said this movie was bad just now, and I keep rethinking this one. So, but I digress. Evil stepmom though, easy mix up. All right, and I don't know. I don't have an excuse for this one. I just fucked up. Okay, I bought a fucking $7 movie, and I don't regret it because I'm gonna make JP watch it as consequence for making me watch this Queer Wolf movie. Maybe
Um, I have to ask, did you watch The Evil Stepmom?
I did not. I'm not in a hurry to watch it by any means. The trailer suggests why, so I'm not trying to run at it. But at the same time, I feel obligated now.
So yeah, you just heard.
But
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say so. But anyways, the point that we're getting to though is that I'm an idiot. We should the movie we are trying to go for was The Ugly Stepsister. Once JP corrected me, we got this all dialed in. It is streaming free on Hulu with both original language and English dub. If anyone does choose to check this out that has not seen it yet, and for those of you who are big Disney fans and horror fans, if you didn't guess by the title, it is a play, a much darker body horror version of Cinderella.
Yeah, and it instead of it following Cinderella, it follows one of the stepsisters. So,
Which
and
I was gonna say by that scene, the scenes we had with Cinderella over her dad's corpse, I just based on how batshit she is in those moments, I kind of maybe wanted to see one based on Cinderella.
yeah, I can't disagree. Um, and I initial impressions, I'm just going to go off the gate and say I bought this on Fandango because I don't have Hulu and I don't have Shutter. But I bought this on sale on Fandango a couple weeks ago. I think maybe a Cyber Monday sale or maybe a after Christmas sale or right before Christmas. It was something. It was a pretty recent sale in the past month, and it wasn't much. I think I only spent like on that sale like $7.99 or something for it. So I was like, yeah, for $7.99, I want to see this because Rick Polton from the whole damn enchilada, I'd actually asked him to join us for this episode, but he is currently working right now, and he was going to try to make it, but he's not here. But I really kind of wanted to have him in the episode because it was because of him that I bought this film and became interested in watching it because he praised this film so much this past year after he saw it, and even told me recently when I asked him to join us for the episode that this was one of his favorite films of the year. That being said, I feel like I need to have a long discussion with Rick.
I want to hear his input to it, but at the same time, as I was saying before, this movie, the first 40, 50 minutes that I watched of it, I was very not impressed. I was like, what the fuck is going on? If I'm being blunt, I was just like, "What? This isn't horror. This isn't anything." There were a couple small moments where I felt like there was body horror, coming into play, and you could see kind of her spiraling off. But I still was like, if this is the rest of the movie, I'm not going to be a fan. But now that I've digested this movie, I give this movie a little more credit than I initially gave it. We'll say that.
Yeah, I can't disagree. I mean, this movie it's a slow burn to start with, and there's been a lot of films this year that I've had this same gripe with. Frankenstein being one of them. It was just Frankenstein was just so long, and the first hour was so slow. Where this film isn't as long, obviously, as Frankenstein. I think this movie's under 2 hours, as well
It
under
felt like
two
it was
hours.
2 hours longer than Frankenstein. What are you talking about?
But it felt. I was gonna say that first hour. I think. Let me see how long. Do you have the how long this movie is up?
I don't have the runtime, but I can find it out in a second. Hold on.
I think I have it up. I think, or I did. I may have inadvertently closed it.
It is an hour and 49 minutes.
So yeah, and that's what I was thinking. I was thinking it was like an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes. So, and that's what I was going to say. Uh, kind of like what you're saying. The first hour of this film, when that first hour was so slow, I literally like hit my controller to see how much longer it had because I was like, there can't be that much left in this movie because
Yeah, it
I've
wasn't even an hour.
and it wasn't even an hour. And I was going to say, I was like, I feel like I'm at least an hour and a half in. This nothing's happened. There's only got to be like 10 or 15 minutes left in this movie, and then I hit select, and it said there was like 50 minutes left of the movie, and I'm like, no fucking way. This is the longest fucking hour in cinema.
I had to break this up into three parts. I'm not going to lie. But the thing, so there's definitely the illusion aspect of how long it is, and to your point, like the comparison you gave of Frankenstein's a good one, and I think it's because of the timepiece aspect. So it's got this Victorian, like it's almost like so Victorian era with the dress and the fashion and everything there, but at the same time it's got this like this haze to the cinematography that makes it more drear and depressing, if that makes sense. And both the films had that same vibe, and I definitely think it made it drag a little bit. So like, but then going back in, I was curious. I wanted to look through, so I was just fast forwarding through when I watched it, and I did time marks on when things started to actually happen. And the first time that we get anything remotely close to horror is 20 minutes in, but that 20 minutes felt like an hour in itself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the nose scene where she's getting a nose job.
Yeah,
So
yeah, that tracks. So, and actually, my first note in this, and you corrected me because when I bought this, sometimes whenever you buy films on Fandango and stuff, you can actually go in and select like the language. And so with this one, it would not let me select the language. And when I went into the information, it said language Norwegian. So there was no English dub in the version that I bought. So my first note was, I wish there was an English dub. Yes, my old age, I've become one of those. So I watched the Norwegian, the dub, the subtitle version, and then come to find out, I guess Hulu actually has the English dub.
now we've talked about anime too. This is a important topic, especially for movies like this. There is a aspect, like, like people talk about this in anime all the time, but there's an aspect where I feel it's important to do that, to listen to it in the natural language, and so you're hearing the natural responses, reactions, the emotion those actors are putting in their voices, because sometimes it doesn't translate as well when it's a dubbed version. So I can understand the like to both of those.
So and it's I've talked about this some too. Sometimes, and especially when I was younger, a lot of times I preferred the subtitle versions for the same reasons you just described. You can get the emotion of how the original actors portrayed the characters. However, I have noticed, especially very specifically in the past 10 or 15 years, that some of the translations in the subtitles are direct translations, and so the English is very broken and doesn't make sense in some of the subtitles in foreign films. And so I've noticed that sometimes an English dub, they do fix the English translation. And so sometimes the English dub is the better version for people who speak English, because if you try to read something that's directly translated from a different language, and the words are opposite and this and that, and you're trying to read it and trying to understand it, it makes no sense, and they'll use words that make no sense
It
in our
makes no sense.
yeah. And I mean, I've literally, and I've used this as a prime example, the Attack on Titan live action film
Oh my
series.
god.
As I say, I love that. I love that series. However, the English subtitle version of that is awful. It is so bad. Like every sentence is like reading in Yoda. It's like everything is reverse, and then a lot of the words that they would use in context to say something is not a word isn't words that like we would use in the English language. And the English dub version, they actually retranslated it, and the English dub, they fixed the English and worded things how we would word things, and it was so much better. And so there's instances like that to where I prefer the English dub, but and especially like I said, my notes in my old age, I just don't like stopping reading. I just want to focus on what I'm watching. You know,
The I going back to you said Attack on Titan. You know, sometimes those emotions that you're supposed to be listening to the original origin language for, sometimes they don't convey very well. And I say that only in the sense of Attack on Titan. I it everyone raves about how great this anime is. For me, I stopped watching it at the beginning of season 2, and I don't know if I can go back because of the character who I think it's Aaron, the main character. The amount of crying and the high pitched tone in that actor's voice for that character is unlistenable for me. I was like, this is beyond annoying. I can't even get in. I can't get vested in this character because all the dude does is bitch and whine. Like I was just like put off by it. I don't know.
yeah.
Um,
And
but
I wasn't even talking about the anime. I was talking about the live action movies
no,
that they
yeah,
did.
no,
Yeah.
I'm just, but still, like when you, a lot of people's argument is to listen to anime in its origin form. So even if it's live action, I mean, but I don't know.
A lot of the anime, I prefer the English dub, and that's just years of me watching anime in English and in the English dubs, and it's like I can't go back and watch Dragon Ball Z in the original language. I've spent my childhood watching it in English, and Chris Sabat is Vegeta, you know. Chris Schimmel is Goku, you know.
Yeah.
I can't hear any other voices doing this, and so I've always stuck to English dub when it came to anime, and Attack on Titan is no different. I only ever watched the English dub.
So all I'm going to do is spiral down an anime road. So let's get back to Ugly Stepsister because I was about to go down Bleach Road and everything, and we got to get focused back on this movie here.
So I
So
watched this in English dub, or not English dub. I watched this in the original subtitled Norwegian language.
and I
So
and I didn't know the origin was Norwegian. That's kind of cool. Maybe I do want to give that a listen.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
it was very it was very unique listening to it. I mean, and there was words I was understanding,
yeah.
you know. And I think it's because I'm assuming there has to be some German influence in the Norwegian language, because I was picking up words that I recognized from like German words.
Well,
And
there's a lot of Germanic crossover, from early days from Norwegian era too. So I mean, and even into Anglo-Saxon UK, that type of stuff. So I can understand where there's similarities in hearing those words that are familiar. In Vikings, whenever they go from the English into the languages, I can pick up on a few of the words. So,
yeah,
um,
and it was actually, and I actually found that like just watching the scenes, I was starting some of it. I was actually starting to understand what they were saying, because I knew enough of some of those words that I was picking up, and I could between the scenes and what they were saying, I could understand what they were saying without having to read every subtitle, which was pretty cool.
Um, so I just referenced the show Vikings, and that's kind of a cool segue here. So I kept looking at Cinderella or Agnes, and I kept looking at her over and over, and I'm like, why does she look so familiar? I know this actress. I know this actress. Now at her IMDb, and she was in The Last Kingdom, which I loved equally to Vikings. I thought it was an amazing series. So kind of cool to see that crossover. But yeah, I mean, in this movie though, there's three sisters rocking here. You know, you got the standard Cinderella or Agnes. I don't. Where does the Cinderella ask? Because they call her Cinderella at one point in the movie.
Yeah, yeah, they call her Cinderella at one point.
Yeah, because her name is Agnes, so I just don't know where that like why they just decided to say Cinderella. I don't know if that's got origins where it's like a name for somebody beautiful, or I've just I don't know. It was odd. But you got Agnes, who's the daughter to the gentleman, and then you got the mom and the two sisters, Elvira and Alma.
mhm.
And they essentially, the mom marries Agnes's dad because thinking he has money. He passes away, and she finds out he doesn't have money. We kind of know the story from the origin one. But instead of focusing on Agnes, I mean, they go side quests on this a lot. We're focused on the main character being Elvira.
Mhm.
Uh, and there's a ball coming up, as we all know, in Cinderella as well. I mean, most everyone listening here is going to know the Cinderella story, but like you said, this is a much darker approach. But this is where everything starts going a little crazy. Elvira already has daydreams and ideals of trying to marry the prince, and she just doesn't feel like she's beautiful enough. She's got a lot of self body issues, I guess we'll say, and she wants to correct those. And her mom knows that she won't be able to marry the prince either unless she corrects those. And in comes the body horror or body modification in these aspects.
So that's one thing I put in my notes, and one thing I really want to praise about this movie. Well, first off, the Elvira character, like towards the beginning, and even I think even all the way into halfway through the movie, closer into halfway through the movie, you feel very sympathetic for the Elvira character. It's not like classic Cinderella where the evil stepsisters were, fucking with Cinderella and whatnot. Elvira seemed like, especially at the very beginning of the film, she seemed like a very sweet girl. And she seemed like, she was excited to have a new stepsister, with Cinderella. And the one thing I'll praise about this film I took note of is the subtle transformation of Elvira from the beginning of the film until all the way up to the ball and all the way up to the end of the film, with how her look. Because at the beginning of the film, you see her and you think she's not a pretty girl. She just doesn't she doesn't look like she's going to be the prize of the ball, and it had to be some kind of makeup and some, I don't know, like to me it was seamless, like with once she started getting these surgeries, and then once she came out of these surgeries and stuff, she looked gorgeous. The ugly
Well,
stepsister looked gorgeous.
so I disagree a little bit here because granted, she's not like by our standards of modern day society, she's not supermodel gorgeous, but the girl was beautiful in the beginning. And I think
She
that
was she was cute, but yes, I'm not
but
saying she was butt ugly, but yeah, she was cute, but still the difference between then
no,
and
for
it's
sure. But
it's it's
but I
it's
still
amazing.
I still think it's a psychological aspect for me that I think she's so ugly psychologically and feels that she's even uglier on the outside, even though she's not. And the way that part of the word ugly develops internally with her psychologically, that's the bigger story to me because yes, I do think there was that transition. Yes, I think that they definitely she owned the character as she progressed, and by the time we got to ball status, she was holding it down. But at the same time, I think that I don't know, that internal battle kind of, that's where I'm saying like this movie weighed with me a lot. So if I think about a movie after I see it, and I start questioning things, I enjoy that aspect. So the more I sat with this movie a little bit, the more I appreciated it versus my first watch of just being like, what the fuck did I just see?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought her subtle transformation from what she was at the beginning of the film all the way to the ball was, to me, was amazing. And then obviously we won't talk about the end of the movie yet, but there's a third transformation, and that one obviously is a major transformation. And to me, like, but those subtle transformations between all of them, like, to me, were
Well, there's
dramatic.
four. There's four.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, I mean, there's probably more in there, but the four main ones that I can think of off the top of my head. Um, yeah, this movie progresses nicely. It you can see the jealousy arising once. So this is what I'm going to dive into. We know the beginning part with the sisters, and we see the friction kind of building. Um, and just probably, I think it's just after the nose job happens. Uh, there is a couple very uncomfortable sex scenes, nudity and a sex scene. And the reason I say it's uncomfortable is because so I had to actually stop the movie and I went onto IMDb to look up their actual ages. And
Mm-hmm.
that was the only way I felt okay going forward because even though they don't exactly specify the ages in the movie, we're looking at underage girls by all intents and purposes of the actors and the story they're telling. The youngest sister, Alma, who's kind of a minor character, but definitely helps her sister Elvira. She's kind of a cool little hero, if you will, on the side. But
Yeah,
uh,
Elma is the one I feel sorry for through the whole
yeah,
film.
absolutely, absolutely. But they even reference her getting her first period in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I talk about that is because Alma is the youngest out of the cast. Alma is actually 22 years old, and she's basically depicting an 11 to 13-year-old girl. Elvira is depicting a 15-year-old girl, maybe in
Mm-hmm.
that ballpark. And Agnes, she's depicting a 17-year-old girl, is my guess, because she's not free yet.
Mm-hmm.
But in real life, you know, Elvira is 25 and Agnes is 29. So these are
Yeah.
all women. Um, but
And,
it, I
and what he's getting at is there's a scene between Agnes, Cinderella, and the stable boy. This is the scene you're talking about. And this scene starts, and Agnes is completely bent over, skirt up. You see everything. You see the stable boy coming. You see everything with him. You
Yeah, you
see
just said it. You just said it. You see the stable boy coming.
you see everything with him. And there is a lot of penis in this. So yeah, there's a lot of dong in this movie. And they
That's
go
why
at it.
Rick liked it.
That's why Rick liked it. um,
He's not here to defend himself. I'm sorry, Rick.
um,
Um,
but yeah, and it's a very hardcore sex scene that that happens with this underage girl, even though the actress is not underage, but the character is underage. So I did the same thing because I was like, I'm a little uncomfortable. So I stopped and looked up the age of the characters of the actresses because I was like, I can't. What the fuck is going on here? But once I realized that the actresses were well of age, I was like, okay, we're going to move forward with this. But still, this is a very uncomfortable scene because these girls are underage, and it's
well,
yeah,
to that point, I'm very proud that JP and I found each other as co-hosts because we have the right mindset and there's no fucking pervs here. So that aside, though, the sex scene isn't even what started it for me. That's not why I went and looked them up. It was the initial scene with Elvira fully buck naked in front of the mirror.
mm-hmm,
And the way that she was sitting, posing, and they focused on her ass, and the whole thing was just a little much. So that's when I stopped and made sure I looked at the ages and made sure everything, because it was uncomfortable otherwise. It was
yeah,
uncomfortable just because of the insinuation of the age too. But knowing their ages in real life allowed me to move forward with the movie. So
yeah,
we keep
same,
watching it. We keep watching it, and I do want to talk about after the nose job. I was very impressed with the nose gear
mm-hmm,
that they put on her face because it was very steampunk and Victorian, and it was pretty cool. I was impressed by it. I think at one point the prince and his goons they call her Metal Snout, And I
Hmm.
couldn't get that out of my head, but that was
And the
cool.
prince actually says something. Talking about at the rock scene where they're doing the
Yeah,
archery, and the
yeah.
prince actually says something like, "I could never fuck a girl like you," or something. Very, very blunt and direct.
He says that thing I would never. Yeah, I actually have it quoted. I wrote it down right after the friends called her metal snout.
Yeah. Um.
Um. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm just going back to my notes.
I was just gonna say the sorry, I had an itch on my dome. But anyways, I was gonna say that the she's got the nose contraption on, and this is Elvira, and she watches the stable boy and Agnes's sex scene, like a creeper. She's kind of peeking over the stables and sees what's going on. She tells her mom. This turns the whole story there. But like by this point in in the movie, I think we're no, 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 we're at like we're probably about 35, 40 minutes, somewhere in that ballpark. And I was painfully like, there's no horror at this point, really, except for the nose job. It's all drama, it's all story, and it's kind of like teenage drama between the sisters and telling on each other. And I
Hmm.
just was really losing interest fast. Fast forward, we get to the 50-minute mark. And this is where we get our first actual, what I felt was actual body horror. And this is the eyelash. So I did not know if this was a thing, and I didn't even look it up. But if this was a thing, what women went through back then, dear God, they actually sewed into her eyelid the eyelashes that she was getting put on for eyelash extensions, and they showed it graphically with the needle going in, coming out, going in, and it was like it was such a long scene and making you watch it. I usually don't squirm at that kind of thing, and I turned away from the TV for a second.
Yeah.
So
I hate anything with the eyes, and like I can't even put contacts in my eyes. Like that's why I
I
walk around
can't either.
blind. That's why I walk around blind half the time because I don't wear my glasses. And so this scene, yeah,
Readers.
yeah, this scene right here, my note direct. This is quote from my note watching this film. I hate anything with the eyes. So the eyelash sewing absolutely sucks. But if you're into body horror, then you're probably going to dig this scene. But this scene is not for me. It's a pretty intense. It's an intense scene.
Yeah, and then shortly, I think it's let's see, 50-minute metal snout. I'm gonna rewind back to that 40-minute scene. I think it was the 40-minute scene where what JP talked about also kind of happened, but it was on a much more minor level. So it wasn't body horror yet. But at one point, while Elvira is attending this school or this place to get prepped for the dance, one of the teachers approaches her and says, basically, I think the quote was, "It's what's on the inside that counts." And she wasn't saying that like a heartfelt, like, be yourself, be your genuine self. She was handing her a tapeworm egg,
Mm-hmm.
meaning put this in the inside of you and that's going to handle business for you and that's what counts. And it really, that sat with me pretty bad because that I started getting a little more interest there, and I didn't know why, and it paid off in the end.
Yeah, and I saw when this happened, and then she's actually telling her younger sister Alma, "Look, this is what I'm going to do," and Alma runs off and like says, "You don't need to be doing this." Um, and she eats the tapeworm egg, and I've actually heard, like, read someplace years ago that this was a real thing that women did,
Mm-hmm.
and like to see this on screen, I was just like, "Oh no, oh this this is going to end bad." Yeah.
Well, I mean, usually it's a singular tapeworm scenario, and we'll get there. I'm not going to get into it yet. But dear God, the movie did, like, that's what I'm saying. Like the end of this movie, the last 50 minutes or so, everything starts ramping nicely, starts progressing nicely. But I didn't expect it to go where it went, if I'm being honest. I really, the way that they're showing, like, there's even a very long, drawn out. I think I talked about it in what was the movie we reviewed last? Where I had issues with the dramatic long camera drawbacks.
Inglorious Bastards.
Yes, Inglorious Bastard. Sorry, there's a sequence like that where Elvira is in the window and she's staring down at Agnes, and it's just long, creepy fucking stare. So I'm like, oh, this bitch is about to start getting stabby. Like I didn't think Agnes was gonna make it through the movie.
Um, so I'm gonna jump ahead because this is one of my favorite scenes in this movie, and it has nothing to do with Elvira or Alma. It has to do with Cinderella. So this entire time, and this has been, and my co-host has took his headphones off and walked away
I'm
in my
still here. I'm just
conversation.
pouring coffee, yo. I need my
so,
caffeination.
so one of my favorite scenes is this whole time and this plays out over like a span of what to me is it's months. It has to be months that this whole storyline is playing out. So this whole time, Cinderella's father is still 4 months.
It's yeah,
Okay,
because
yeah,
the lines were in 4 full moons.
okay, yeah, that's right. You're right. So yeah, 4 months. So this whole 4 months period, Cinderella's father's corpse is still sitting unburied, rotting in the house. So we're going to jump forward to them getting ready for the ball. And my favorite scene, and I don't know how you feel about it, but my favorite scene is Cinderella. She's getting her dress. Elvira comes in. She rips her dress up, and Cinderella runs off and goes and starts crying on her father's corpse, which is covered in maggots and
Silkworms.
silkworms. And so these silkworms start sewing and fixing and repairing and redesigning Cinderella's dress. And I thought this scene was amazing. I love
But
this scene. And
but
then,
why? I mean, why are they repairing the dress? Is my question.
well, to me, it's because like the fairy godmother and the ghost of her mother shows up and tells her, you're going to the ball. What she even talks about the pumpkin and being back by midnight and the whole Cinderella, storyline. Um, I love this. I love this. I love the visual of this. With seeing these silkworms repair this dress and just the conversation and the eeriness and her laying on her father's dead rotting corpse, like the imagery of this whole scene I loved. It's probably my favorite imagery in the whole film.
So I'll rewind a little bit too with this. So there's another scene where she goes down into the crypt, and it's because she's distraught that her father's body has not been put in the ground yet. There's been no funeral. Essentially, the money that the family had, the mom was, I think her name is Rebecca, is the mom's name. Rebecca has basically squandered on all these cosmetic procedures for Elvira. And so this keeps sitting with her drastically. And in this process too, right after the state, I think it was a little before and even after more, um, the stable boy sequence where she gets caught by Elvira, Agnes does. That's when they basically make her a servant. She is wearing the rags of the house servants, and she has nothing. She except for a chest. She's got a hidden dress. Now, before she got caught with the stable boy, I do want to point out one cool moment that'll lead up to this dress part. There, um, um, Agnes was also in this school preparing for the ball originally, and
Mm-hmm.
then until she got caught. And there's a scene where it's the exact Cinderella dress, but reversed, where it's all white and it's got the blue and the black highlights. And it was really, I thought it was a cool little touch because I didn't think they were going for the exact Cinderella story. I thought this was something a little different. And later on, though, when we see that sequence that JP is talking about, she's now come down to her dad, and it's so bad. The body's just in a state of horrid, like those insects were crawling out of his mouth, the whole bit. It's a really cool scene if you're a horror fan. But she's laying on the father's corpse with this dress that her and Elvira just got in an argument over because it was a hidden dress in this chest. It was hidden, and when Elvira saw her with the dress, she knew she was planning to go to the ball still. They fought over it. Elvira tore the dress. That's why she's down with dad now crying, and in comes fairy godmother. The fairy godmother thing is cool, but I could have probably done without it. That's why I was saying earlier in the beginning of this review that the aspect of her, I felt like she was kind of going a little mad. And so her
Hmm.
seeing this fucking fairy down there, it could have been fumes from the body. It could have been anything. I would have liked any of the explanations, but then like they gave no like build up to the pumpkin aspect. Like, oh, by the way, your carriage will turn no pumpkin at midnight. And there's nothing like we're going to do this, or this. It was just by the way. So some of the dialogue there was a little rough for me, but the visual aspects, absolutely 100% agree with you, JP. It was very, very cool, especially the silkworms coming down
Hmm.
slowly and repairing the dress and making that veil for the front of her face.
Well, and I when I watched this, and especially when I was in that scene, I felt like her seeing her mother as her fairy godmother or whatever you want to call her. I felt in that scene she was having a psychological break, and that's what she was seeing. And that was another reason I really loved that scene. So you don't see the pumpkin until towards the end of the film,
Yeah,
after the ball, and like the ugly stepsister carriage shows up and it stops, and then there's a pumpkin sitting on the in the driveway, and so at that point it's like, okay, was the fairy godmother real? And so that part makes you kind of go, okay, that kind of, because I like that idea of her kind of having a little bit of a psychological break.
yeah. If we kind of go off and we think about it like that, then yes, I think that was cool. And I like I said, I wouldn't mind seeing this movie like a different version of it. Not a sequel, but a different version of it told from Cinderella's standpoint with that
Hmm.
psychological break aspect. And I believe this woman who directed this, I don't remember her name off the top of my head, but she is a first time director. So
Yeah.
uh, this is a good starting point without a doubt. Without a doubt. But this movie builds from there. You know, we go to the ball. What happens at the ball is kind of crazy too. You see the same two nitwits who were with the prince when Elvira ran into it. They're being drunken idiots, commenting sexual things that are inappropriate on every single woman that comes by, what they do to them, how they would do it, and you just this high society class of snobs is painted very poorly, and I was here for that aspect just
Right.
because,
And all the creepy old men that
yeah,
are
like
that
it
are
was.
they're looking for their young new brides.
Yep. So all that happening at the same time, one of the things we didn't talk about is a side effect of this tapeworm that's inside of Elvira has made all of her hair start coming out. She's starting to have noises in her stomach. She's throwing up things. And during the ball, she actually has to go into a room. She throws up on this fabric in the middle of the room. And what she throws up isn't just goo, it's a pile of tapeworm eggs.
Hmm.
So I was like, oh shit, now we're getting real dark. Okay. Uh, and then from there, we start getting into obviously Cinderella shows up, steals the show. Elvira is distraught. Um, you see them when they go out the door. There's the slipper that's left behind, and we get into the at home now. What happens?
Yeah.
Uh, and this is where it gets real fucking crazy.
Yeah, and this I'm gonna have to read my fucking note on this scene because so the prince finds the slipper and says, the maiden whose foot fits this slipper is who I'm going to marry, because he's, classic Cinderella story. He's going to go find Cinderella, and it's not a glass slipper. It's just a slipper, and so Elvira gets Cinderella's other slipper because she knows it's hers, and she takes it and she sizes it to her foot to see if her foot will fit. Well, her foot is like way bigger than
Like 2 inches
Cinderella's.
longer than the shoe.
Yeah, and about 2 inches wider. Like,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah. That's fair. I forgot about
um,
that.
so this, and I'm going to quote, and if I offend anybody in my quote, I'm just going to apologize. But this was my exact thought as this scene happened. This crazy bitch just cut her toes off.
How are you going to offend anyone with that? No, that was what happened, and she tries to size him up. But the worst part right there is that in comes Rebecca. By the way, Rebecca, she her nighttime escapades. You find out more in these in like the day before the ball and this night. She is basically, it seems for all intents and purposes, like she's a nighttime courtesan.
Mhm.
Like that's how she's paying the bills. And she comes into the bedroom after she hears the scream from the foot shop. Alma has already shown up. I must look at me saying Scooby Doo names. Anyway, anyways, Alma has shown up already, and she doesn't know what to do. She's trying to make sure that she's okay. And mom comes in and she's holding her, and she's like, "Oh dear, you did the wrong foot."
Yeah. She's like the prince has the other slipper, and then commences to cut her other foot half off, and yeah, and the logic. Watching this, I'm like the logic. I was like, how is how would this have ever worked? Like her foot's obviously not going to be healed by the time the prince gets there. She just chopped half her foot, both of half her feet off. Like she's a bloody fucking mess. She's sick. She's
And those of you watching too, if you look at the display screen, you can see the cover for this movie. It's literally a hatchet next to a bloody foot inside of the slipper. So like I didn't understand the logic to that until later. I thought it was maybe blood from one of the, like maybe she killed Cinderella or whatever. I didn't understand the logic here. And then the scene happened. I was like, oh fuck. And again, we're talking about body horror version of this. So this isn't like just you hear the crunch, you see the toes come off, you see the bone, you see
just
everything.
flapping.
Yeah, like there's nothing left to imagination here. The body horror is legit in this movie when those moments happen. Now this sequence is followed up by something more, isn't it? It's after, right, with the worms.
That's after. Yep.
Yeah, so in comes the final sequence.
Before we
I
get
almost said
there, there was a scene. I don't remember if it was before this or before she cut her foot. I got to mention that the mother, Rebecca, shows up at the house with one of the main like royalty type men that the Elvira was dancing with, and goes to bed with him.
well, that's the
And
courtesan aspect I was kind of
yeah,
insinuating.
yeah, and but there's a scene, and I had to mention this because we know Rick loved this scene since he's not here to defend himself. Like, there's a whole scene there where she gets in bed with this guy, and this guy like literally full cock
This is
out,
after.
full yeah he has full cock out, and her mother's just going down on it, and yeah, Rick loved that scene. That's why he loved this movie.
Yeah, that's why he loved 28 years later too. But anyways, I digress. So yeah, so basically, well, that you know what? I don't know. It's a weird jumble because this all happens within minutes of each other. So
It does.
I,
It's quick. It's all
yeah.
quick.
So either before or after that sequence, because Alma goes into her mother's bedroom to take jewelry from mom because she's taking Elvira and they're leaving.
Yeah.
They're leaving mom. This is insanity. Alma wants to see her sister get better. So I don't know if it's after she returns to the room or before she goes into the room, but at some point,
It may have been when she was getting the jewelry. It may have been when that scene
well,
happened.
the jewelry is when that scene happened. I'm talking about the worms. So the
Okay.
tapeworm thing, that's what stands in my brain
Yeah.
because how insane this is.
Yeah.
So they have the elixir, they have the antidote, and they put it's milk in a dish, and then they pour this antidote into the milk, and it teases the tapeworm to come out. So she starts throwing up violently, and Alma starts pulling on this tapeworm, and it just keeps going and going and going. And then there's more that come out with it. It looks like there's multiples. So this thing's been reproducing it within her stomach internally. She's been gorging herself when the whole thing was happening to the movie because she was eating a lot to the point of almost disgust. Like you hear the noises, the whole bit. And that scene to me was almost more horrific than the feet or anything. The only scene I would say to me that took the cake from that was, I don't know why that eyelash scene sits with me so hard because
Yeah.
that was just, it was so long. They made it intentionally uncomfortable.
But yeah, the tapeworm scene, by the end of it, it is literally like a octopus or a squid coming out of her mouth. There's so many worms that just pour out. Like it's awful. It's disgusting. And yeah, and it's that point Alma goes and gets the jewelry. She sees her mom giving this lord or duke or whatever he is head, and takes the jewelry, carries
Do you mean a head massage,
Yeah,
JP?
a head
Okay.
massage, like um, and to get her out. But now we jumped ahead a little bit. So the prince does show up before all this, and Elvira is trying to get out of bed to try to get down so she can try on the slipper with her bloody feet. So this is the other transformation. So she is falling and falls out of bed. She falls down the steps. She's bouncing into everything. And by the time she gets down to the steps to where the prince has already put the slipper on Cinderella. Cinderella and the prince are leaving together. And then you see Elvira, who had turned into this very pretty girl. Now her nose is broken. Her nose is like completely like crooked, and she's lost had teeth busted out and broken. She's like she is completely transformed into a mess, just a
Well, the
complete mess.
the teeth and the nose happen because she's literally to get to the prince before Agnes. She crawls out of bed and goes. She falls. I mean,
Right on her
crawls down.
face.
Well, she crawls down the stairs and then starts falling down the stairs and lands
Yeah,
on her face.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what I said. She falls out of bed. She falls down the steps. Yeah,
Well, the stairs was really uncomfortable to watch. That was
yeah.
because she's crawling and you just see the bloody feet up in the air as she's going down them.
So yeah. By the time the tapeworm comes out and Alma's getting trying to save Elvira and getting her on this horse and taking her out of this land and taking her elsewhere to save her sister, poor Elvira doesn't even look like the cute girl, the cute, ugly girl at the beginning. She doesn't look anything like the gorgeous girl she was transformed into. She is a mess of a person. And
Now she's the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
yeah, she kind of, she's very reminiscent to like the Hunchback or like the Wicked Witch of the West, or like she is.
She looks like the old lady version of the witch in Snow White
Yeah,
with the apple. Like that's kind of like they're kind of painting that picture a little bit.
yeah, very much so. That's actually a good analogy. Yeah, so she is. That's the other. I said there's three. You said there's four transformations, but I consider three because I consider the your original version of her, then the fully transformed version of her to beautiful, and then this third transformation to basically, like you just said, the old witch from Snow White, the old lady.
So you're getting into it like chapters. I was looking at it like each time she had a body modification made. So
Yeah,
that's fair too. I like that.
yeah. So that's how I perceived it. Is that she had three trans. Yes, if you get into detail of each surgery, yeah, she's had multiple transformations, but as a whole, she had three transformations of who
What
she actually was.
What's funny is, so I told you that comparison to the Snow White witch, and all I could think in my head at the end of this too was I was like, the director could do a Snow White one next and have her be the witch, and she's scorned by the success or love of and happiness of other people, and that could be a thing. So I was like, maybe this director's onto something.
Yeah, if they did that, that would be. I would watch that. I would,
Yeah,
and I would watch an alternate version of this that focused on Cinderella's story.
absolutely.
Um, the character that I like the most, and she had probably the least screen time of the main characters, is
Alma.
Alma. Alma.
Yeah.
Alma was she was a super cute girl. She was super sweet. She was super helpful. She wasn't an evil stepsister. She was caring. She cared about the well-being for everybody in that house, including her stepsister, her real sister, her mother, and she was very worried about her sister, and it shows at the end. She abandons her mom to save her sister.
I feel like, and I'm giving a lot of Disney comparisons here because of the characters, but like the movie Brave with Marta with the red hair, crazy red
Mm-hmm.
hair. I feel like Alma could play that could do that role
Mm-hmm.
easily. The actress who did that
Oh yeah,
because
yeah,
yeah, she was styling, she was cool, and I like the way they portrayed her. She wasn't evil, she wasn't mean, she wasn't messed up in the head. She's just trying to do right, and she seemed to care about like even the animals in the stables. So yeah, she's a good
yeah.
character.
And I felt sorry for her, because she the whole scene where she had her period, you could tell she was trying to hide the fact that she had her period. She did not want her mother to know
No, yeah,
that
because then
she
she'd been trying
was
to marry off two of them.
should have been trying to marry her off too, and she was only supposed to be what, like 11, 12, 13, or something
Yeah.
like that. And so she hid that, and because she wanted to remain who she was. And I respected her character the most of everybody in this whole film.
All right, you got a budget?
So I did find a budget. It's a rumored budget. I couldn't find anything for sure. Did you look at budget?
No, because it was
Okay.
your film.
Okay. Did you want to try to take a guess?
All right, so you got Victorian era castle, relatively unknown cast. I'm gonna go 20 mil for the budget.
Way high.
Way high.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, the rumored estimated budget for this film, because they didn't really ever put it completely out, um, was between 5.5 million and 6 million.
I mean, that's impressive. That's cool. I especially with the dresses and the fashion they had to implement here and make happen. That's a reasonable. I mean, that's pretty impressive.
What do you think this did in the theater?
I don't think it did shit because I this is like when you suggest this movie, I had no idea this movie existed. So the marketing couldn't have been that great, or at least in the I don't know what kind of U.S. release it had. Probably didn't have any.
It had a
Um,
U.S. release. It had a
it
U.S.
did.
release. Hmm.
Wow. Okay.
And it
I
had a
still
world. Obviously, it had a worldwide release.
I'm still going low on this one. Uh, I would say I'm going to say the same. They maybe they broke even if not lower.
Okay, so according to IMDb, the U.S. Box office for this film was $308,000.
Yeah, I was going to be shocked if they did anything more than that. Honestly.
Now, the worldwide box office on this. So this movie actually made some money in Europe. It had to have made some money in Europe. Probably in the Norwegian area. It probably did very, very well in that area. Because the gross worldwide was 5.6 million.
So it broke even.
So it broke even. Depending on what they did for advertisement. I don't think this movie really made any money, but I don't think it was a complete bust. Obviously, it didn't make anything. It may have still lost some based off of ads or so on. But as for their actual production budget, they at least came close to making it back if it was 6 million, because the estimate was 5.5 to 6, and it made 5.6 million. So it, I would consider it a success.
Yeah. Um. Good.
I think this film could definitely gain some cult status and end up making money later on, longevity wise, because it just feels like the kind of film that could gain an audience, if it could gain that cult status.
See, the thing is, like, this is one of those movies that, like, there's so many adult Disney adults, whatever you want to call them, and there's so much crossover with horror because people love horror as well. So to me, once like that's the thing is, I don't think a lot of people know this movie is a thing. If they knew this movie was focused around Cinderella, they might give it a chance. And yeah, I could see it developing some cult status too.
But the problem is, just like you said, there's so many Disney properties being turned into horror films now that you know you can't compare this to Blood and Honey, the Winnie the Pooh movie, and some of these other Disney properties that are being turned into horror films, because they're low budget. They're complete crap, and people know those films are crap. This film isn't really crap.
So
We've
yeah,
we,
I
we, we, we've
agree.
given we've given this film a hard time, and I'm sure when we get into our actual review of our individual review of what we think of this film, I don't think either one of us can walk away from this film and say this film is crap. This film is not crap. It is a beautifully shot film, and there is so much. There is a lot of good in this film, especially if you compare it to the Winnie the Pooh movie or a Pinocchio movie or Bambi the Reckoning or all these other Disney properties. Those are meant to be stupid horror films, where this is meant to be a very interesting take on Cinderella.
Well, speaking of that, do you want me to go first, or you want to go first? The ratings.
You go ahead.
All right. So because I was gonna start talking about what you just were talking about, and then I was like, no, I'll put it the rating. Um, I would venture to say that of all the Disney turned horror movies that we've seen, I would say this is probably the best one. Because cinematically, you're right. The camera work is just beautiful. Everything about this, the fashion, the concept, the set designs, I liked everything, and especially the simplicity yet complexity of how they shot the body horror shots. I think those are done incredibly well, and that's probably what carried the movie for me and made it sit and resonate a little longer than I probably wanted it to in my head. So I definitely applaud this. Now, JP told me that this was Rick Paulton's favorite of 25. Is that correct?
He told me it's one of his favorite films of 25.
One of. Okay. Well, that said, though, I probably wouldn't have this on a top 5 list. Maybe an honorable mention, but I had a lot of honorable mentions. But I do enjoy the crap out of this movie for the body horror aspects, being a horror fan. So I'm going to go 3.5 nerds for me.
Okay. And just like kind of you were saying, this film's beautifully shot. Cinematically this film is kind of a hidden gem of a masterpiece. Cinematically, it's beautifully shot. The outfits are great. Everything about the world building in this film is beautiful, and I love it. However, just like we said at the beginning of this episode, that first 50 minutes to an hour of this film felt like 2 hours. Like, I thought I was at the end of the movie and nothing had happened, and was completely kind of hating this film for the first hour. And so that this first hour of this film is a bog. The pacing is awful. Like, they could have did a lot more within this first hour. And I'm not asking for a lot. I'm not even asking for body horror. I'm not even asking for actual horror. They just could have did more with psychologically, especially with the Cinderella character and her dad's rotting corpse in the basement. They could have did a lot of things to really pick that first hour up, and they didn't. So that's going to impact my score on this film, hands down. Like, because that first hour is bad and it's rough. Now, the last hour of this film, I got into this film. This film gets good, and the body horror is good. Even though I'm not a body horror fan, I like my horror, but I'm not a big fan of body horror just to have body horror, and that is kind of what a lot of this is. But I enjoyed a lot of it. I enjoyed where the story was. I believed the ugly stepsister to be the ugly stepsister, to become a beautiful stepsister, to become the evil old woman witch from Snow White, like you described her by the end of the film. Like, this whole transformation of her, I believed it, and I think it was beautifully done. So there's so much I can praise about this film, and I did enjoy it. But I'm gonna sit a little lower than Ryan on this film, and I do agree. I don't think this film would have made an honorable mention for my top 25. I don't think this one would have made a difference in my top 25, my top 5 of 2025 list at all. Um, but it is a good film. I recommend it being watched, and you get your own opinion, because I feel like this film is going to be for some of you and some you are, it's like me, it's not really going to be for you. So my rating, I'm going to pop this one in at a 2.9 nerds,
Okay, that's
because
fair.
that first hour was such a bog and bore to me that they there was so, like I said, there was so much they could have did to fix it, and they it just was such a bog. It literally killed this movie for me.
Yeah, I what I didn't talk about was the fact that I stopped this movie twice and I had to come back to it. So I had to treat it like a TV series because it was so that beginning hour was so painful. But
Yeah.
3.5 here, 2.9 out of JP, and I think we're in the same kind of ballpark, honestly.
Yeah, I think you liked it more than me, obviously.
The
But
last
I
hour.
yeah, and I agree. The last hour was so good, and I
Yeah, like
can't take that away from it.
to your point, like the beginning hour, the first hour, I do feel like there's missed opportunities with developing the characters a little more in their relationship with each other. Like we could have seen how their relationships were either growing together or apart further. In like also the stable boy, like I we saw him once in the movie, and then all of a sudden he's fucking Agnes. Like, excuse my language, but that's where he was going with it. I mean, so like just figuring out they even had a relationship or anything more.
I actually, when she introduced him at the beginning of the movie, I was like, I saw that in my mind. I was already thinking, she's fucking the stable boy.
Well, I mean, I think it was insinuated, but definitely exploring these things like is a far better thing than just I don't know dead air, and I don't know. There's just a lot of moments that could have been fixed or sped up in that beginning. But I'll shut up on that note. You got any recommendations?
I do, and I'm gonna do a recommendation on a film that was on my, I believe it was on my honorable mentions last year for some of my most anticipated films of 2025. So it's another 2025 film that I watched. Finally got around to watching it because it came up on sale and I bought it. Survive. I finally watched the film Survive, and uh, this film, I will say, I was a little let down compared to what I was hoping that this film would be. It's a foreign film, but it's about I've talked about it a time or two over the past year, but it's a film about the polar. There's a polar shift on Earth, and all the water in the ocean moves to the mainland, and this family is trying to get to a submarine to survive when the waters come back. Um, and there's killer crabs. There's a lot of things happening. The film is it is good. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot, especially for what seems to be a pretty low budget foreign film. It is
Is it
really
streaming
good.
anywhere?
I did not find it streaming anywhere. I actually had to buy it on Fandango. So I did buy it on sale on Fandango a couple weeks ago. Um, but I really enjoyed it. But I had to really look at it with open eyes that it was a low budget foreign film. And if you look at it with a
It's
low
on
budget,
Hulu.
is it on Hulu? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
It is a low budget foreign film, and when you look at it like that, what they do with what they have budget wise, this is an amazing movie. I really enjoyed it. I would have my takeaway from this film was I would love to see like a big budget version of this film. Uh, and you could, I think this film could be a complete masterpiece of a creature feature if it had a bigger budget. Um, but Survive, you can check it out. Obviously, he just said it's on Hulu and it's available to buy on digital. So
Cool. So you guys probably have seen in the last couple of weeks, but I started basically I went back because we all have our queues and we put movies in the queues and we never get back to them. So specifically, I'm tackling my Tubi reviews and I'm calling it Tubi Q reviews. And the reason I'm doing this is because there's so many hidden gems that I put in there that I've been going through and finding, and a couple ones that were just as shitty as I expected. But one of the ones that really impressed me is a movie called Outlaws on Tubi. And again, Tubi's free if you're not hip to Tubi yet. It's got a great movie selection. I recommend people go into it. but there's a family vacationing. They've got their RV. They're touring. It looks like they're like somewhere West Virginia area, and they come into contact with a hillbilly family, and the things that unfold are not what you expect whatsoever. Even the description of this movie, it paints a different picture than what actually happens. So for a low budget film, with a fun cast that all seems to be involved and embraced in it, it was great. But again, I can't get too much into it because if I get too much into it, I'll give it away. So check it out.
Alrighty. All right, CineNerdsPodcast.com. And, we posted that reel showing you how to invite your friends list to our Facebook page. Some of you have done that. Like, I saw we've gained about 100 followers over since like the past day. And I greatly appreciate that. And so now we're over 1,800 followers. I would like to see us well over 2,000. I'd like to see us well over 10,000 followers. But that being said, please go in and click the little dots and invite your friends to our Facebook page. Share our YouTube and recommend people to follow and subscribe. If you're watching now, click follow and subscribe on our YouTube. We really want to build our YouTube channel. I talked about this on a live I did the week now, and I also want to build our TikTok. I want to start getting more focused on our TikTok and building that. So come over and follow us on TikTok. I want just follow us on all this stuff and share everything. The more you share, the more our reach we get, and it gets out there. So we really want to gain the followers and try to get all these numbers up for us, and we have some of you that share everything all the time. Like Megan is like, and I called her out on the live because she shares literally everything. Every flyer, every reel, every episode, she shares everything. And I call her out because I see it. I see it every week, and I would love to call out 20 more of you right now. And there are a few that I see share stuff periodically. I know Jen shares some stuff. Crystal shares some stuff every now and then. But consistently, Megan is our VIP, and I I want to start doing this and praising more than Megan. Yeah, I want to see.
So I was gonna
I
say to that point, go ahead.
I was gonna say the more you share, I want to start calling some of you guys out on our episodes, so I can say, hey, Joe over here shared everything all this week. This person over here, Jane Doe over here, shared every. I want to be able to call all you guys out because I'm looking at this. I can see who shares stuff, and so I want to be able to actually call you guys out and praise you on our episodes and thank you. And I thank you the ones that are sharing stuff here and there. But I really want to appreciate all the shares we're getting, and I want to start calling you guys out and praising you on our episodes.
And would like to read more reviews. We haven't done that in a while. So if
Yeah,
you want to give reviews, do that too.
and you can do the reviews on Apple Podcast. You can write a review on Apple Podcast. You can write a review on our Facebook page. You can leave comments on the episodes on Spotify, um, and write a review. If you want to write a review on the YouTube episode, write a review. And I know Megan comments all the time on every episode. She does this. So yeah, if more of you start writing reviews, and I would really like to see the reviews on Apple Podcasts and the comments on Spotify. And this is just something we want to do, so we can actually start, calling you guys out by name and thanking you.
All right. Well, I don't know. That's all I got. You got anything else?
No, that's it. That's my soapbox.
All
So
right.
next week, we are doing the 2009 Bruce Campbell film. My Name is Bruce. So until next week,
Sweet. Later, guys.
later.